Hoodie guy coming back here with another one. I haven't did a live stream in a long time, so I figured it's been a few months. I'd hop on here since Kaspa's back in the top 50. Seems like it pumped a little bit more since I made a video earlier today. You can see 6.1 cents. It's doing a little bit of staircasing. This last week, it's up 42%. So we'll take that now. Some people think this could just be a relief rally. We're going back down. This feels like sometimes you realize that I don't know. I mean, there's some people that are right, but even like Michael Burry, okay, he got the big short right, but he's been wrong a lot since then. So it's kind of like none of us exactly have an idea. If everyone that could read charts was perfectly on, then everyone would have been calling the top perfectly on that. You see, some people are talking M2 liquidity, and then it's like then they just the story's changing. We do know that Bitcoin went down below the 50-week moving average. Not good, but it's nice to see that Kaspa is getting some good action here on the CAS BTC chart, which is nice because yeah, it's still down when you go year to date. It's still down a lot, but it's nice to see it start breaking out a little bit. Now, it probably needs to go up a little bit more to really feel like, okay, we're there. But it's nice to see that action and that going up. It's been a while since had a pop that big. I guess you could say maybe it had something similar, but not so much in a straight line. It was a little bit more jagged stair, kind of a more of a stairway up. So that's exciting. You got Bitcoin back over 91,000. We don't know if it's 80 was the bottom. You just don't know. To me, it feels like there's a lot of bullish things on the horizon, and I know there's a lot of people on X that think that it's pretty much over. Some people think that okay, there's some bear signals that flashed, but we don't have enough data. Here on X, you just ask Grok, what are some, bullish events that happened? This is some of the rallies or whatever, but Kevin Hassett is merging as the front runner for the next Fed chair, which everyone's talking about. Texas buying $10 million worth of IBIT. There's a bunch of other stuff too. New York Fed Chair John Williams signaling for support for December rate cut. The odds of that are up to like 84%. Harvard stacking more Bitcoin IBIT, 443 million. Dow Jones seems like it just keeps going up and up. There's things like AI bubble fear, government shutdown. This year, actually, between the tariffs, government shutdown, there's been a lot of negative macro events, and altcoins really haven't done that well. But you can see in AIS Kaspa, this is just Grok. So Grok's not perfect, but you say, what are some bullish events there? October 5th, Kaspa processed 158 million transactions in 24 hours, achieving 5,700 TPS, surpassing Ethereum Classic, Dogecoin's daily volume. Also, I think that surpassed anything that I think BSV did a stress test once. A lot of different initiatives. Egra, Casplex has theirs out there. It doesn't seem like it's super popular. 4th anniversary on November 7th, basically the 4th birthday. You got Casplex, zero knowledge EVM layer 2s, plus you have stuff that like the vprogs, things like that, things Egra are working on. Some of that's not going to happen right away. Reinforces Kaspa's tech edge 6,000 times faster than Bitcoin with low inflation. 93% of the supply is already mined. Well accumulation, obviously wallet number one. Whoever that is, we don't know. We know that it's not Gate.io. And we know that it is keep pretty consistently stacking another 600,000 today. You can see that just keep loading up, and they're pretty much all coming from Gate.io. So that, hey man, what's going on? Justin Crypto OG, thanks for tuning in. Figured I'd pop over here and do a live stream. It's been a while. Nice to see. Maybe Cass was in the top 50 when I made a video earlier, but I know that we got 3 on Coin Market Cap. I don't know how long this wave's going to go. What's going on exactly? Besides that, we're outpacing the market right now, so we're gaining some of that market dominance back, which is basically the most important thing. I guess if Bitcoin completely tanks, that'll be really hard on alts, but if Bitcoin hasn't topped at the 126, and there's some bullish reasons to think that it could go up in the coming months, um, then you want to gain market dominance. And lately, the last year, Kaspa's is losing market dominance. So nice to see that going north again. When you have a fixed supply, proof of work, it's been 10 blocks per second for a while, but it's nice to see some good signs. Now, whether it keeps being sustained, I can't tell with certainty what that's going to do. But I think that as long as Bitcoin keeps going up, we'll be good. And narratives can shift pretty quick in crypto, and they can spin around, and people can, you can see, like with Zcash, just short period of time, Zcash just got hot. Caspa, is not going to have the privacy narrative. I know some people would like to have that incorporated, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. But in terms of a decentralized proof of work where you have a bunch of computers, and now with 10 blocks per second, you have it so more home miners can solo mine and get rewards. And, I know eventually they want to bring that up to 100 blocks per second, which, makes it so the small guy can partake, which makes the more decentralized. So it's not just all big warehouses full of super specialized ASICs, immersion mining and stuff like that. But, actually I haven't checked the hash rate today. I guess, it's been hanging around. Um, as far as I know, it's really been hanging around the, you know, 600 petahashes. I did see it, maybe go down to 570, 580, but for the most part, it's been hanging around the 600 petahashes. So that's solid. It's not as good as when it was up higher, but it's went down about 50%. But the fact that it's still holding strong there with some of the worst price action we've seen since 2023, since it really went over 5 cents back, at the end of 2023. And then it really held that 10 cent, line for a long time before we had the real big breakdown. Ina Storm, thanks for tuning in. But yeah, it's nice to see us back in the top 50. To me, and there's people that have data that says it looks like it could be over. Kind of feels like there's maybe some larger liquidity issues, but you have the Fed with quantitative tightening ending. How quick quantitative easing starts, or if it's shadow quantitative easing, just seems like there's a lot of bullish things, in my opinion. And I could be wrong. That's why you just one random dude. But there's a lot of smart people on X calling for things to go up, down. This might just be a dead cat bounce, relief rally. But I think we're going to be going up. That's just my personal opinion. You can let me know in the chat or in the comments what your opinion is. And if you're a long-term holder, then this short-term price action, if you're looking to take some profit in your altcoin, thinking there's going to be a bigger drop at some point, then, this price action is more relevant for you. But, for me, taking at least some of my position and profits, I don't know. It depends on, you just got to have a little bit of flexibility, but it's good to make a plan now before it gets hot and heavy. You just, you don't want to buy the top. The green candles are for selling and red candles are for buying. So people had dry powder and bought, and maybe they're just a short-term trader, or they have a long-term part of their bag, but they could buy it under almost 3.5 cents, a little bit over. So once it gets up to about 7.5 cents, we're not that far from someone basically having 100% gain if they'd have bought the bottom there. And I know there's one guy that commented on my video, and he was actually using like 3 to 5x leverage, which I don't have the stomach and leverage. I actually think for the most part, leverage is a bad idea because you can lose more than you gain. For the average person, there's people making it, but it's a pretty dangerous game to play. And for me, that person said that they weren't sleeping very good, and I don't really want to sacrifice sleep for that. Hey, Burke, thanks for tuning in, man. But I guess that's pretty much all I got. Just a quick video. Nice to see that we're back in the top 50. It'll be nice once we're back in the top 40. Nice to see that Kaspa is basically Merle. Never heard of it. You go into crypto bubbles. There seems like there's always like one that I've never really heard of that's just all of a sudden like up 130%. There's thousands of cryptos, and really there's only about, well, there's millions of cryptos now, but there's really only about 1,000 to 1,300 that have any kind of meaningful amount of liquidity. But it's nice to see Kaspa pretty much, the main top gainer in the top 100. Merle is a new addition. And sometimes Crypto Bubbles has some projects included that Coin Market Cap doesn't. So it's usually got Kaspa a couple spots lower, like it's showing number 52 here. So that's pretty much it. Burke says he's heating his house with Kaspa. Nice. Maybe drop a comment. Let us know how many casts you're getting a day. But that's cool, man. Yeah, now that it's wintertime across the northern hemisphere, somewhere that gets cold, people are heating their house with mining. So I think it's pretty cool what's going on right now. And it sucks when there's that price action and you're watching your portfolio bleed out, even if you're up, because overall my investing career, I'm up. But then when it goes down 50% from its all-time high, that still hurts. But you just got to buckle up. And, I think even if Bitcoin goes back to all-time highs and altcoins really have a good time, there's going to still be lots of ups and downs. It's never so easy as it just goes up 10% a day until it just completely, hits some crazy top. It's going to be a lot of ups and downs, but you got to stick to what you believe in. And I just believe that there's some bullish events and liquidity and things like that. Now, China can invade Taiwan, and all of a sudden, no semiconductors are coming out of there, and AI is crashing or something. But I think that's less likely to happen. There's possibility that the Russia-Ukraine war ends. That could be bullish for the market. Trump's got all these bullish people, in key spots like Besant and Howard Lutnick. And then, now that he's going to have maybe that guy, Kevin Hassett, maybe being the Fed chair who has Coinbase stock and who's an advisor. Just think about that. The Fed chair is like one of the most powerful people in the world. What they say moves markets. And you're going to have a guy that's an advisor at Coinbase, and you're not bullish on crypto right now, with Trump putting in someone there that wants rate cuts as bad as he does. I just, it's hard to not be bullish right now. That's my personal opinion. Also, having guarded optimism that when we get these pumps, there's still going to be volatility. So if we get a pullback, I don't want to lose my britches. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. And if you're in the United States, have a happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for watching.